So how will the escalating violence in places like Tel Aviv and Ukraine impact the aviation insurance industry? With the loss of Malaysia Airlines Flight 17, many are asking who pays when these acts of aggression happen. Robert Hartwig, president of the Insurance Information Institute, joins us now with some answers. Robert, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Glad to be here.
Let's start with, are the airlines required to carry insurance against these different types of acts of terrorism or aggression, or to simply just safeguard the fleet?
Absolutely. All commercial aircraft are required to carry insurance. And typically they're going to carry insurance that obviously covers the aircraft itself. They're also going to be required to carry coverage that protects them against liability losses in the event that people are injured or killed in accidents. Those could be accidents that involve a crash on the ground, or they could be the sorts of accidents that we've seen recently, whether it was a MH370 disappearing off the coast of Australia, or most recently and tragically the shooting down of MH17 over the Ukraine.
Would Malaysian Airlines already have been paid for the loss of those two aircraft in the amounts of probably 90 to 100 and some million dollars?
Right. A Boeing 777 is typically insured for hull coverage. In other words, the value of the aircraft itself for about $100 million. They have certainly been paid in the event of the MH370, which disappeared back in March. The most recent event in Ukraine occurred just a few days ago. However, payment has been authorized on the hull of that aircraft. I don't know that the payment has actually been transferred at this point, but it has been authorized.
Now, what about the passengers? Does, say, Malaysia Airlines then pay out per passenger, and does that then preclude lawsuits or not?
There are international agreements that govern how much carriers have to pay in the event an individual is killed in an airline accident to the survivors, to the members of the family. And in this case, it's known as the Montreal Agreement, and that is approximately $175,000 per passenger. So Malaysia will begin these payouts basically very close to immediately to the family members of those who were lost on this flight. Ultimately, the costs, for the most part, are borne by the insurers of the airline, however, and there are a multitude of insurers who would take part in these losses.
Who writes this kind of insurance, and is it likely, in light of these two tragedies, that premiums for this kind of coverage will go up?
Right. Aviation insurance is written in a different way than you and I might insure our cars or our homes, where we take out a policy with an individual insurer. Commercial aircraft are written through consortiums. These are groups of insurers that band together to provide coverage in the event we have losses just like these, which can be very, very expensive, hundreds of millions of dollars, even billions of dollars per event. So they do band together, and they band together for different types of losses, and that's basically how the entire global marketplace works. Now, what will the impact be? We've had an accumulation of events recently. You can go back to the Asiana flight that crashed in San Francisco last year. You can look at the disappearance of Malaysia Flight 370 in March, and of course Malaysia 17 just a few days ago. You combine that with the loss or damage of a number of aircraft in attacks by insurgents in the Tripoli airport in Libya, an attack in Pakistan, and a few other events here and there. And what you have is some pressure on the marketplace. And yes, at the end of the day, losses of this magnitude could in fact impact the cost of aviation insurance on a global scale.
Robert, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it. Robert Hartwig.
My pleasure.